This episode of Heavy Cardboard is brought to you by BoardGameTables.com. While none of us needs a gaming table, it sure would be great to have one as the centerpiece of your game days. Go check them out at BoardGameTables.com and take your gaming to the next level. Now, on to the show. Heavy Cardboard episode 52, The Top 50. Coming to you from Commerce City, Colorado. Welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium and heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and in this case, a whole lot of lists, or a list, as it were. We're your hosts. I'm Edward.
And I'm Amanda.
So, unfortunately, we were supposed to have had our basement already started by now. And, well, as folks that understand construction know, delays are inevitable, and ours was delayed like 4 or 5 days. So we're hoping that here, by the time this releases, the basement is started.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because we're already in a world of clutter. And just really need this to get done. So we're anticipating the 6 weeks, just anxious for it to be done. Yes. And it hasn't even started yet. So I'm down to 215.4 pounds, really buckling down. I'm really focused on hitting my Weight Watchers goal, and my goal is to now hit that by the end of September. So, all right, let's do this, damn it.
I am back down to 21 pounds lost. I still have 2 more pounds to go before I meet my maximum amount that I lost, but I'm getting there. And with Dana living here now, I decided to just go with whatever she says. Things are point-wise because she's a lot more strict, well, about Weight Watchers in general than either one of us are. And she seems to be losing quite a bit of weight, and I seem to not be losing quite a bit of weight. So I'm just going to follow her lead, and hopefully I think that'll help.
I think so, too. She just inflates numbers. Oh, this is probably 6 points when it's really only 4
right.
Or something like that. So, yeah, that should definitely help.
Yeah, I hope so. And my ankle is completely fine now, which is absolutely absurd, but whatever. So
I didn't think you were a hypochondriac, but
whatever. It was just bizarre. It went away just as quickly as it started. So, okay.
So Matt is currently, not like this second, but he is in the process of editing our face playthrough video, which ended up being 13 days. I think I explained why it was 13 days and not something else last episode. So if you're curious, go back and listen to that. But anyway, that should be up on the Heavy Cardboard Vids YouTube page here sooner rather than later. I hesitate to say definitely, but it should be up by the end of August.
When we were moving offices around, I found a random bag of old Magic cards, which we picked up at a thrift store a couple years ago and just never did anything with them. And so I decided to go through them and search to see how much they are worth. And I got through about 50 of them, and the highest one so far was 9 cents. But I was going to continue to go through them, but Edward saw on a geek list that an Essen attendee was requesting old Magic cards just to look at them. So,
well, look at them, and he likes just building decks.
Yeah.
And he's not like a super competitive player or whatever. And he's like, hey, if anybody has any, I'll buy them from them. And I was like, well, I know we got this big old stack of Magic cards, and I really don't have any interest in it anymore. So
yeah. So you're going to take the Ziploc bag full of old Magic cards to Germany.
Yep, and give it to him. And it just, it was something simple that is nice, that why not help one another out, right?
Exactly.
And I'm also offering up services for muling things over to Essen. I already had quite a few takers on this, but I'm thinking that I'm probably going to still have some room for some stuff. Once Essen gets closer, then I will open it up to the guild, to anybody in the guild that wants me to mule stuff from the States over. I'm going to try and limit it to 1 item per person. That way I can kind of spread the love a little bit more. And yeah, I just thought why wouldn't I do that, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, the only stuff that I have to bring over to Essen with me is, well, me, a toothbrush and heavy cardboard t-shirts and pint glasses to sell to folks at the meetup on Friday night at Essen. But other than that, yeah, I got all that luggage space, might as well. So absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was a cool thing to do. Speaking of cool things, I went ahead and made a map on Google for folks to post a pin so everyone can kind of see where everyone is. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. I'm curious just to see. I mean, I know we have listeners on 6 continents, but it would be cool to actually be like, oh, that's where so-and-so lives or whatever.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you're not comfortable putting your exact address, which I can completely understand, just, hey, if you're from Denver, put a pin right in Denver.
Right. Or or put a pin where your FLGS is.
Yeah. That was a good idea somebody mentioned as well.
Yep. Also, the other reason behind this was there might be other fans of the show, listeners of the show that are in your city or your town that you might not have known about. And maybe this will help, get other elephants gaming with one another. I thought that was a cool little side benefit than just pure curiosity,
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we now have permanent for now house guests and Matt, Dana, and their cat Leo. And that means possible 4-player games every night, which is awesome.
Maybe not every night, but yes.
I said possible every night. And Asher and Leo aren't quite sure what to make of each other yet. We have had a couple of barking sessions and a couple of hissing sessions.
But they're walking past one another in close proximity. Mm-hmm. So I think they're still feeling each other out.
Absolutely.
But they've realized that Asher, he's curious, but really doesn't care about the cat. Mm-hmm. And Leo is paranoid because he's a cat. But he's realizing that Asher really just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Does not care even a little bit about him. No. So just stay away from his treats. Leo learned that lesson according to Dana the other day. But other than that, they seem to be, they're doing okay. They're not. Leo was actually batting Asher's tail yesterday.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
And again, with Matt and Dana being here, we're now a household of 4 whenever we go grocery shopping. So the refrigerator's about to explode. The counters are about to explode. We have more bananas than like a jungle because Dana and I live on bananas. So Edward's always afraid that we're going to have bought too many bananas, but we always seem to have to go back and get more from the store.
Yeah, I think we bought like 6 bunches today, and those will make it maybe through the end of the week. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yep.
Elephants, I thought, not monkeys. Elephants.
Well, All right, so Edward, why don't you tell everybody how to get in contact with us?
Our website, heavycardboard.com. Our email, contact@heavycardboard.com. We love hearing from our listeners, so don't be shy. Twitter, @heavycardboard. We are very, very active on Twitter. Amanda's Twitter is @AmandaU. Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. Instagram, Heavy Cardboard. Our Patreon, come support us. We definitely appreciate everyone that is doing so. Patreon.com/Heavy Cardboard. And our BGG Guild is number 2044. A lot of good discussions pretty much continuously going on over there. So come join the guild and say hi.
This is Quentin Smith from Shut Up and Sit Down, and you're listening to Heavy Cardboard.
We wanted to send a big thank you to Tommy and Lee, the fellas behind Meeple Realty, for their sponsorship of Heavy Cardboard. Their reputation for making amazing quality board game inserts is flawless, and they keep coming up with more and more ingenious designs to help keep us gamers keep our games organized. I can't imagine how one goes about designing the inserts. I'm just glad that they do it. So go check them out over at meeplerealty.com and mention you heard about them from Heavy Cardboard.
So do we have any new iTunes reviews?
Yeah, we had a couple. Indie Mike BB and Gold Dust 66. Much appreciated on the reviews. Keep it up. And if you're listening to this and you have not left us an iTunes review and you're willing to do so, because I know Apple, iTunes, the devil, yada, 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 we'd appreciate it. It really does. It helps visibility on the show, and it's really cool to see when we're listed in the news and new and noteworthy for our little show.
That's awesome.
We appreciate it and keep it up. Thanks. Speaking of saying thanks, we wanted to keep mentioning some Patreon supporters. So big thank you goes over to Ambi Valdez, Mark Van Minden, Dan Habel, Bill Simone, Eric Nelson, Adam Harvey, Matt Kelly, Andrew Dennison, Stephen Canning, and Russell Smith. Thanks again. And if you don't support us on Patreon, we'd appreciate it if you guys would consider doing so.
So we're going to roll out a new feature here on Heavy Cardboard, which is for you guys. So we have a phone number for you guys to call and leave us voicemails if you want. The phone number is 720-675-8975. So you can call and leave us a voicemail and let us know what you're thinking about or what games you're playing or if you have a question about a game. We thought it'd be cool to, interact with our listeners on the show. So we thought this was a good way to do it.
I think it's a cool idea. So good call on that. I stepped on you. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we thought it'd be cool to do that.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty fun idea. And it'll be a new segment of the show if people partake. So let's have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we get a lot of emails and we try to answer all of them, but we thought it might be a good idea, too, to start answering some of the emails that we receive on the show instead of responding to an email. So if you guys like or dislike that idea, let us know at contact@heavycardboard.com. Give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think.
So this is a bit weird, but we haven't acquired anything since last episode. In fact, it's going the opposite way.
Yep.
The annual Heavy Cardboard Game Group auction is now live, so go check it out over on BGG if so inclined. We'll link to it in the show notes. But no acquisitions since last episode.
What the what?
Yeah, but considering the just glut of games I'm sure that are going to make their way into our collection from Essen, I'm okay with that.
So, I know that this is weird, but I actually have a game that I'm looking forward to.
What, you mean like for us to acquire?
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
I was reading Steph's Meeples of the Rainbow blog, and she was talking about her experience at Gen Con, and she demoed a game called Sagrada. It has a Kickstarter that's coming in September, and it just looked gorgeous. The pictures that she took were just beautiful. It's a dice drafting game in which you are crafting stained glass windows. Sounded like a cool little filler for us.
I dig the idea of that. I mean, not many games about crafting stained glass windows.
Exactly.
And I dig unique themes. You know that. So, all right. We'll take a look for sure when it comes out.
Absolutely. I just thought it looked beautiful. So therefore I was interested.
I was just excited to hear that there was something you were looking forward to for that, because that's so unlike you. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. As far as... on the shopping list, it's just the anticipation list. 1822 is still at the top of my list, but I'll be honest, I'm not in a huge rush to pick that up for the simple fact that Tony has it, Paul Chad's got a copy, and I know we're going to be able to play it here in the next few weeks. So we have direct access to it. And so while we will eventually get a copy, I'm not like, must have my own copy. So other than that, just the stuff that's on the anticipation list I'm looking forward to. There's been a new key game in the series that was announced that I'm jonesing for to check out. And there's a lot of war games that are coming out that I'm looking forward to, or at least looking forward to checking out more. And the Essen list is ever growing, as it no doubt was going to happen. So just check that out. And that's pretty much it. This is kind of the calm before the storm, I think, as far as hunting and acquiring. Come October, all bets are off at that point. As far as looking forward to playing, though, it's pretty much the same as last episode. Millennium Blades, Star Wars Rebellion, Panthelos, Princes of the Renaissance, more Crisis, and one more edition, though, more Scythe. More on that here in a minute.
And I obviously want to get more Panthelos played, and I was thinking about it, and I want to get Clinic played again, because I've only played it once. It was a disaster. And I definitely feel like I've grown as a gamer since just that time. So I'd like to give it another shot and see if it makes me want to stop like it did before.
Because the 3D stuff, that is difficult. That is no doubt a difficult concept for my brain to work through as well. But I'm on board. I have no doubt that we have others in our group that would be down.
Or, people that live here.
That too. All right, why don't you take a minute and talk about what we've been playing, or at least what you've been playing.
So, Kalis, The Age of Steam China map, which was a disaster in and of its own right.
Well, not for all of us.
Oh, just for me. It was really, really bad.
But you had fun.
I did.
Right?
And then we played Scythe. You and I were playing together, and then Ash had to leave, so I swapped places with him. And yeah, it's hard to jump in when you don't know what the strategy was before the person left. So that was difficult. But I did really enjoy the game, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Now, that's not to say that I was expecting a disaster or anything, because let's face it, Jamie doesn't make bad games.
Right.
I was worried that this would be more euphoria and less viticulture as far as our enjoyment factor. And even though it's got, a bunch of plastic minis, and let's face it, you and I really, whatever on those. The game itself I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to getting more plays of it in.
And also got a play in of Crisis. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the first time we played Crisis, because there's 3 difficulty levels for the austerity plan in Crisis, and the first time we played it on the easy level, and I think all of us were fairly underwhelmed because there just wasn't any tension from the game whatsoever in the economy. Well, this time we went to the other end of the extreme and played on the hard, and we played at 5 players, and wow, what a difference that makes.
Yes, drastic. Night and day.
It went from being it's fine game to, dude, everybody wants to play that again now. Everybody is really, really excited to play that game again now.
Yeah.
So moral of the story is, I think we're past easy levels of games.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, this is why I don't like talking about games much after an initial play. Because the first play, it was fine. It was milquetoast. However, the second play, wow, that was really good. Now we need to really get into this. I'm genuinely excited to play it more. And we're fortunate to have a prototype because it's currently on Kickstarter. And even though it's on Kickstarter for another week, they've essentially shut it down. And the reason for that is Iraclease, who heads up Luda Creations, who's the publisher for this, they made the just unheard of decision, or at least as far as I'm concerned, to not accept any more orders. They did the math. They figured out, look, this is how many we can comfortably actually make and deliver in a timely period. And so they said, look, we've reached that limit. Thanks. We're all sold out, even though there's a week to go on the Kickstarter.
Incredible.
And, there are a lot of Kickstarters that run that really give Kickstarter a bad name. And we don't know how this ends up, whether or not this is a huge success or they still stumble maybe in the fulfillment. But all we have to go off of is the judgment call that they made. And they said, look, this is how much we're comfortable with producing, or how many we're comfortable producing. And that's amazing to me. And I think they absolutely should be commended for that.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited to meet everybody over at Essen, and hopefully other Kickstarter creators learn from this and just don't over-promise and under-deliver. It's better to under-promise and over-deliver.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited for our copy of the published game, even though the prototype is, well, fantastic, honestly. And I genuinely can't wait to play it some more. So hopefully next weekend. Yeah,
it was so much fun. I cannot wait to play it again.
I said next weekend. I forget. Matt and Dana are here. Oh, we can probably play it maybe this week.
Yeah. We want to thank the great folks over at GameStar Plus for their sponsorship of the show. When you put together great people with a great reputation, with a great inventory of games, which includes many imports and hard-to-find games, you have a winning combination. Their tagline is home of great games at great prices, so check them out at GameStarPlus.com. If you're looking for an import game, or really any game that may or may not be widely available, don't hesitate to contact Velma at games@gamesurplus.com and she'll work her magic for you. And when you do, make sure to tell them that Heavy Cardboard sent you. So I wanted in on this top 50 thing that you and Tony did.
Well, not just you, but I think a lot of other people want to know what your top 50 is as well. It's time to revisit the top 50 from back in January. We chose to do this now because folks have asked to hear about Amanda's top 50 so they can kind of have a frame of reference when it comes to her likes in games and to give context in regards to her reviews. Fair enough. And since this is a spotlight in time, I thought I'd take the time and revisit my top 50 as well. The goal here is to make this an annual list, maybe biannual, we'll see. So look for another one in the first few months of 2017. Last time, I was able to go through all my plays and pick out 38 no-brainers. These would be on my top 50. This time, I was able to go through and I picked out 44.
Wow. We do things differently. I just went through and I went through my plays, all of the ones that were logged anyway, and wrote down if I thought that it could possibly be in my top 50. And I think there was about 65, maybe. I can't really remember. And then I just called from there.
Okay. All right. So we went about it kind of opposite ways, but we got to the same spot. Didn't matter.
Yep.
So to say this is fluid is an understatement. I made my list numerous times over the course of this, et cetera, et cetera. So some guidelines that we followed, though. No filler games. Games like Arboretum, SNCF, etc. For the sake of these lists, we labeled filler as any game in which you would not go to a game day specifically to play, or at least one that we wouldn't go and specifically play.
Right.
Or to put it another way, you wouldn't build a game day around this game. Like, oh, wow, I can't wait to go and play Arboretum. No. Arboretum you're going to play in between whatever meals you're having, so to speak. No expansions, although there may be some games that we include with their expansions. Numbers 50 down to 21, we listed alphabetically because it's awfully arbitrary, and the further down the list you go, I mean, really, what's the difference between number 43 and number 47 after all?
Right.
We did number them from number 20 down to number 1. This is by no means a complete list. There are still plenty of games that we have not gotten around to trying or that haven't impacted us enough in limited plays. This is my top 50 of 602 games that I've played, which is the top 8.3%, not factoring out filler games, which is up from 481 games when this list was made in January 8 months ago. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. Last but not least, obviously, Amanda knows my top 50 from the last time we did this. I have no clue what's on her list. The only game that I know for sure is on there is Castles of Burgundy. Outside of that, and I know Troyes isn't going to be on there. Outside of those two games, I'm as excited as the listeners are to find out what's on your list.
All right. So whenever I took over and just began logging my own plays, not the plays that Edward and I played together or whatever. We kind of shared EAPs, the BGG ID for a while for logging our plays. Whenever I started just doing mine on my login, Amanda U, I have played 210 games on that login. But obviously I played a lot more than that, but that's all that I have bare bones, raw, for sure no access to.
All right, so let's do this. So starting with number 50 down to 21, again, alphabetical. Ladies first.
1860, Railways on the Isle of Wight. I really enjoy this game. It's a very good entry-level 18xx game, and it's a good game that to play multiple times to try to figure out different strategies and things like that.
And it plays well 2 players.
Yep.
This is also my first entry on the list as well. And it's one that I'm really anxious to get played 2 players with just the 2 of us. Mm-hmm. Or if one night Matt or Dana are available, we can play it 3-player. But it plays really well 2 to 4 players. Big fan.
Yep.
Next up for me is 1880, China.
That's mine too.
All right. It's a bit of an odd duck when it comes to 18xx games. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of non-traditional or a lot of little quirks about it that make it interesting between the outside investors and the way the communist period works and the whole 9 yards, and very much not a beginner 18xx game, but definitely one that I'm just always looking forward to playing.
Oh yeah, it's a really cool one.
On that note, it's been rumored to be reprinted over the course of the last 2.5 years by O&O, and for whatever reason, they just haven't got around to doing it yet. So now that 1844 and 1854 are out, I'm hoping that this becomes a priority and they reprint this soon.
Yeah. All right, my next one is 18 Mechs. This is one of the very first XX games that we ever played, and you and I played a play-by forum of it as well. We need to get this one played. I haven't played it in probably a couple years, so I would like to get this played, and just so we can say Chihuahua again, even though we know it's Chihuahua, it's still just more fun to say that I'm going to go lay track in Chihuahua.
So 18 Mechs was on my list from last time. It is no longer on my list, and it's basically been replaced by one other game that is further up on my list. I do really like 18 Mechs, but for the reason you just said is the reason it fell off my list, is we haven't played it in like 2.5, 3 years. And it has one of the most brutal train rushes in any 18xx, to where most games are going to end in bankruptcy. So I am very much enamored with the game, just haven't gotten played enough to, and there are other ones that have that I feel stronger about because of a recency plays type thing. So therefore
more right in the forefront of your mind.
Right. And that's pretty much why it's not on mine. But yeah, I'm a big fan of 18 Mechs. The last 18xx that's on my list, outside the top 20 anyway, is 1889. This is basically a reskin of 1830 set in Japan, and it plays in about half the time that 1830 plays in, and it has a more interesting map. The reason I'm not too keen on 1830 is I don't like the wonkiness of the Northeast and the way the map plays out, and it's just not my cup of tea. 1889 pretty much solves the length issue, as well as just I like the map better, and it's kind of exotic, I guess, in a sense that it's Japan. So yeah 1889, big fan.
Well, my problem is that I played this and I don't remember it.
Okay.
So that, that might be telling as to why it's not on my list. I don't remember playing it even a little bit. The last 18xx on my 21 to 50 is 18OE. You played the huge, 16-hour scenario at Gen Con.
Yes, I played the full game.
Yeah. I've only played one medium scenario, but I really enjoyed it. I like it's just beautiful, and the graphic design is wonderful, and it's one of those games that just kind of stuck with me. There's going to be a few in this list that I may have only played it once or twice, but it stuck with me and it makes me want to play it more, and that's why 18OE is on my list.
I don't want to overstep here, but I think I can say that you enjoy engineering games more, running good company games, as opposed to stock shenanigan games.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, at least right now, I don't feel comfortable doing any type of stock shenanigans other than selling stock that I have in order to fund myself and try to make my company better. I don't have any interest really, at least right now, in dumping stocks just to dump them, things like that.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, that makes sense that 18OE is on yours. It's beautiful production. It's a big boy. Obviously, it's one of the massive ones, but the fact that it has the small and the medium scenarios makes it, very unique in that respect, and thoroughly enjoy it. Just it doesn't hit the table too much, and there are other 18xx games I would rather play.
All right.
But I understand why it's on your list. So moving out of Trainville, moving now into the A's for me, and I think this is fair to do. I put two games which are really the same game, kind of, and that's Advanced Civ / Mega Civ together.
Yeah, that's fine.
So this is the giant, hey, let's get everybody in town together and play a massive Civ game. This is more a con game than anything else, and it can overstay its welcome a little bit, but I mean, this is the granddaddy of all Civ games, and I love Civ games, so it's got to be on my list, right? Yeah, I've loved every time I've played both Advanced Civ and Mega Civ, so I can't wait to do it again at HeavyCon.
I have played Advanced Civ once. I was not involved in the Mega Civ game at HeavyCon. I don't care for the trading of the cards. I don't like negotiating, and so that it isn't really a thing for me. I'd rather play any other Civ games than that one.
Makes sense. Fair enough.
All right, so I don't have any A's at all. My next game is Bora Bora by Stefan Feld. It is Stefan Feld's heaviest game, I would say.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, and I enjoy playing the game. The art can be a little bit over the
Garish?
top. Yeah, at times. I was going to say atrocious, but that seemed to be kind of mean. And so, but yeah, that's one of my favorite Felds.
It narrowly missed the list. It's definitely in my top 100, but yeah, instead, there's another Stefan Feld coming up here soon for me.
All right.
Next up for me is Martin Wallace's Automobile. We reviewed this in an earlier episode, and it doesn't hit the table enough. I know this is a bit of a divisive game because a lot of people hate the randomness, quote unquote randomness, that are the way the tile draws work out as far as demand. But we thoroughly enjoyed all of our plays, Tony and I think you, I'm not sure. But yeah, it needs to hit the table more. And I look forward to breaking it out at some point again.
Yeah. All right, my next one's Cavum. You and I reviewed that game in a past episode. And I mean, who doesn't like, driving around in a mine and blowing stuff up and getting gems? Come on. It's a really fun game. It's a good entry level to track laying as well.
It's also on my list. It's definitely one of my top 50s. Totally underrated game. I love the way it can confuse you in a good way, especially if you're used to 18xx games or games like Age of Steam, because the track lane is similar, but not exactly like that.
Yeah.
And it's just, you have to think spatially as well, which I struggle with, but I tend to enjoy games in which I struggle.
Right.
And Cavum is one of those. And definitely belongs on my list as well. So going back a little bit is the only Stefan Feld that's on my list, and it's the one that I know is also on your list, and that's Castles of Burgundy. I think it runs the risk of getting replaced by other, what we like to call school night games. Just, hey, I don't feel like getting into something super meaty tonight. It's had a hard day at work or whatever. Hey, let's just break out Castles of Burgundy. Mm-hmm. I still really thoroughly enjoy it, especially 2-player. I think it's fine 3 and 4. Other people would disagree, but yeah, just a really, really good weeknight, school night type game. You can think as much or as little as you want on this game and just enjoy it.
It's just a relaxing game is what I always say. And yeah,
I'm going to assume we're going to talk about that later.
We'll talk about that one later. All right, next up on my list is Kalis. This is the granddaddy of all worker placement games, and it can be pretty brutal and awesome, and I've loved my plays of it. Also
on my list, and I think the brutality of the Provost is why I enjoy this game so much.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not the first worker placement that goes to either Keytown or Keydom. I get them confused which one, but for all intents and purposes, this is the first mainstream worker placement, and there's a reason it's still played. There's a reason it's thought of and revered the way it is. Mm-hmm. Just the Provost is such an asshole. And
yes, he is.
So good. And by the Provost, I mean the players moving the Provost.
Yes.
So yeah, just a classic, and it's one that we're going to be reviewing sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. All right, next I have the darkest game that I think I've ever played, darkest as far as theme goes, and that would be Colonialism. We've never reviewed this. We did a pod blast, Tony and I did back in the day, early on, and just it is such a unique, just unapologetic look at the way colonialism worked back in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. So the premise of it is it has a bit of an El Grande feel, but it's more card play than that, to where you must go and as a colonial power, remove the native population from the land before you can then strip the resources from the land, just like what happened in colonial times. And yes, it's a terrible theme, and yes, it's extremely dark, but I appreciate it because it does it in a respectful way. And let's face it, this is what really happened. So yeah, it's a game I hope to review here on the show eventually. But yeah, Colonialism, really good game.
All right, this is another game that I've only played, I think only once, but I really enjoyed it. It's my favorite city builder. It's called City Tycoon. I played this with Chad, you at our old group, and Robert, and we really enjoyed it. I specifically remember playing it with them in the basement. We had had a long day playing something else, and I wanted a city builder, and Chad recommended this, and I like it better than Suburbia or anything else like that. You have to you have to power your building, you have to power your city by placing power plants, and you have to water your city by placing water treatment plants and all kinds of stuff. You kind of just build out your metropolis, and it's a really cool city building game. I don't think you've ever played it, have you?
I have, and it was early on in the hobby, and it was really hard, and it frustrated me, and not in a good way. But I haven't played it in 3+ years, so I would like to revisit it. But yeah, not on my list, but cool.
Yeah.
Next up for me, I have Craftsman. This is another that we reviewed back in the day on the show, and it's just fun in a work. Difficult. I struggle, and it really requires you to plan out turns in advance. And that type of brain working, or working your brain, as it were, I just really dig those type of games. And there's a reason we loved it when we were playing it for the reviews, and there's a reason it's still on my top 50. Craftsman, really good game.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that later in my list.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. All right, so next up for me is Container. This game was one of the very first really hard economic games that I played. And it's so hard for me to, master exactly how much to price things, and remembering that whatever I'm trying to get for myself is what matters, and what I'm trying to sell it makes my brain melt in a really good way. And I really enjoy Container. Especially with our heavy cardboard ships that Tony painted us.
Yes, and it will be later on for me as well.
All right.
All right, the only winsome that I have on my list is up next, and that's Irish Gauge. Now, I could have put a number of different winsome games on here, but to be honest with you, there aren't enough that I've played enough to where I can absolutely say, yes, this is it. Whereas Irish Gauge, I still remember the first time I played this and this is fantastic. And I've loved every single play of this game. It's just atypical winsome, very low production quality, but just genius design. And I'm just grateful that we have a copy of it.
Yeah, that was written down but did not make my cut.
All right.
All right, up next for me is Die Macher.
Whoa. Not in your top 50? Or not in your top 20, I mean?
Correct,
Oh, that
sir.
disappoints me. Oh.
Not until you're not going to be as disappointed as whenever you hear my next game that's coming up. But yeah, so whenever we played Die Macher for you and Tony to review it, gosh, a long time ago. That was one of the very first episodes y'all did. I enjoyed it in the fact that it was fun for me to play. It's silly to say, but like a grown-up game. Like I didn't feel like it was like anything else that we'd ever played before. It's the first game that was in BGG's database. It is the quintessential election game. And I like square tomatoes. And it's just a very fun, very hard game.
It's way up on my list, so we'll just keep moving.
Okay.
All right, next up is Vital Lacerda's Kanban.
It's also on my top 50.
It has one of the most intimidating looking boards that I've ever seen until you understand the game. And even then, you just take a step back and you're like, wow, that is busy. But it makes perfect sense once you understand the game. And it's just a lot of fun to play. I enjoy the concept of manufacturing cars. I work in aviation. So just that whole manufacturing process, I just enjoy it. And it's just a really damn good game.
Yep.
So yeah, the end. I mean, another that we reviewed a while back.
Yep.
Really good game. And now I know what your next game is. Yes. And that makes me sad.
My next game is Dominion. I never get to play this game. I only play it with Matt Kleiker. Shout out, Matt.
I was wrong. Okay. That's not what I thought.
What did you think it was?
We'll get there.
Okay. So I just love Dominion. I like making the chains, and I like all the different cards, and I like all of the, I just love the game, and it's just fun to me. And I like to play multiple games right in a row with people, and I just have a lot of fun with it. But I only really ever play it with Matt Kleiker at Conclave of Gamers because nobody else wants to play the game with me.
That's all you.
I know.
Next up for me, we have Le Havre.
All right.
I struggled with this, putting it in my top 20, but the thing that kept it from being in my top 20 is I've noticed the last 2 times that it's come out at our game day, I've been like, no, I don't want to play it. So if that's the case, then it can't really be in my top 20, I don't think. But that said, it's my favorite jumping off point to recommend to people for the entry into heavy games, because essentially you have 2 decisions on your turn. Now, obviously, there's more thought that goes into it than that as far as the production chains, but it's either take the offer or go to a building. That's it.
Right.
The end. So yeah, big fan. I enjoy my plays of it, but I think maybe it's just I need a break from it for a little bit.
Possibly, for sure. My next game is Dungeon Pets. We've only played it once, but it made an impression, and it's very cartoony looking, but that's a hard game.
I was surprised at how much of a real game that really is.
Yeah, we all were, I think.
I'm looking forward to trying its big brother, so to speak,
Dungeon
Lords. I think that'll also be good. But yeah, that's another game that we need to get to the table more.
Absolutely.
Next up for me is another game that just narrowly missed my top 20, and that's cutting wood in 18th and 19th century. That's Lignum.
Yep.
We reviewed this, and this was actually Amanda's test episode.
Yes, it was.
We recorded it at her episode 0 to find out whether or not she could do this or not. But long story short, go back, listen to that episode. We love the game. It just recently got reprinted in Germany. And I know our buddy Clay over at Capstone Games, he is going to be reprinting this as well. And I'm really excited to see the production quality that he puts out. Just a really excellent game.
My next one is Eclipse, another game that we don't play very often, that you don't really like either. But I love 4X games. I love exploring, and I like making my ships, and I love my board and building up my science and money and all of those things. And shout out to Mina, because I know you like it too. So, sup girl, we should play this sometime. And yeah, so Eclipse is also on my 21 to 50 list.
All right, fair enough. We'll move on. Yeah, no, I'll play it. It's just it never gets brought up. Mm-mm. It's not a game that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, let's play. But I'm totally game for a game. Another game that if I played more, probably would have been in my top 20, and that is one of the 2 quintessential 3-player only games, and that's Maria. Very unique card play in this game. Cool. Just the way the suits work, and asymmetric war game that has Euro tendencies. Just a really, really good game that I would love to get to the table more. And I'm hoping now that we have, roommates, we can do that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting game. The card play is very cool and very different in that game. All right, next up for me is Fields of Arla. So this game originally was in my top 20, But the more I thought about it and the more other games came up, the more I realized that, yeah, it's not a top 20 game for me, but it is a top 50.
Interesting. I mean, we just reviewed this last episode, and I'm surprised that it made the cut in your top 50. It did not for me. In fact, it was a game that I thought about putting in the auction. Obviously, I wanted to clear that with you, and you were like, no, let's hold on to it. Mm-hmm. So if it's a top 50 game for you, we absolutely need to.
Well, I couldn't tell you that the other day.
How about that? Fair enough. All right. But yeah, go back and listen to it. Episode 51. The newest game on my list. And I am completely smitten with this game. And that's by Level 99 Games, Millennium Blades. It is such an ambitious game. It's super meta about playing a player that plays collectible card games. And it has an obnoxious amount of cards. It is a mother bear to sort. Thankfully, I have two people that love doing that type thing.
Yep, hello.
But the actual playing of the game is just plain fun.
It is. That's on my list too. It's just so much fun.
I got stomped in our most recent game, and I had a blast getting stomped at it. And it gets my adrenaline going, unlike any other legitimate board game, card game, whatever, that isn't like a dexterity game type thing. It's a one-of-a-kind type game that I just really am always anxious to play.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
And of course, I back the expansion because, yeah, the 450 extra cards that we're never going to need. Yeah,
of course,
totally
we
in on
have
that.
to have them. So yeah, that's on my list as well as Madeira. This was one of the first games, again, that Heavy Cardboard featured, so we played it a lot.
No, not one of.
It was the first one.
It was the first. This
That's
is
right.
episode 1,
It
yeah.
was.
Madeira.
I remember you saying Madeira and getting to know us, or you, or whatever. But yeah, so this game is very difficult, and those stupid pirates can kill you. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a really good game.
It's going to be talked about more here in a little bit.
All right.
Next, I have a game that a lot of people say is a 5-player only game, much like Democker, and that's New Amsterdam. It is a game filled with auctions in which it has a fall away trailer problem, in a sense that it's not a runaway leader. It's just if you fall behind, you're out.
Yeah.
There's just no catch up, which we're okay with. But yeah, just a really, really fun game that doesn't hit the table enough. And when we put the list up for Patreon backers to vote on a game to review, this got the fewest votes of all the games out there. So it comes off the list, which is really disappointing. But I'm hoping that in 2017, people will see the light and we'll feature it then.
It's a really good game. It's really sad that not enough people know about it.
Yep.
All right, my next one is Masters of Venice. This was another game that was featured on Heavy Cardboard that we played a lot. Beginning to play it, I didn't really like it because of the little boards and for each.
The pegboards?
The pegboards were, poof.
It's fiddly.
Yeah, it's very fiddly, but it's such a good game that I'm willing to overlook the fiddliness.
It's such a good game. I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Next up for me is a game that I struggled not to have in my top 20, and that's Pax Porfiriana. If it hit the table more, it would be. I'm very much looking forward to playing more of this, as well as the newer incarnation, I guess, kind of it, and that's Pax Pamir. Both games, I just love the design. Even though it's the graphic design, maybe not so hot, and the rulebook, maybe not so hot, but the game itself is really, really fantastic. I am a bit of a Phil Eklund fanboy, and I am anxious to explore more of his titles.
Yeah, it's not on my list, but I do enjoy that as well. But again, like you said, if we played it more, it would most likely be on my list. Up next for me is Mombasa. This game, so we Skype during recording, and he just has this most shocked look ever on his face. I like the way that Mombasa works in that there's more than one path to victory. You can do different things. You don't have to do the exact same thing every single time you play it. You can do the diamond track, or you can do the book track, or you can put out houses, and you can do the stock market. It's just, there's so many different ways to win that makes it a really cool game to me and makes me want to have it on my list.
The reason I had that shocked look is I was like, wow, it's not on my list. Huh. So I'm not saying it was an oversight, but let's just say it's in the top 60 for sure.
Right.
It probably could have been on this list, but yeah, go back and listen to the episode. Both Tony and I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it was close. All right, here we go with Polis, Fight for the Hegemony. This is a game that I'm dying to get to the table with you to see if you like it, because it's a game in which can end extremely early and the game hates you, your opponent hates you, and it's just really difficult to play well. And I just want more. I want more quality time with this game that I keep saying, and it keeps not happening. So I need to make a point. But some people regard Polis as the very best 2-player game in existence.
Wow.
I'm not ready to go there, because if I did, it would be higher on my list. I need to play it more, but that's high praise, and I'm really, really excited to play it more.
All right. My next game is Noah Heimat. I do not see this as a filler game.
Nor do I.
Okay. So this is such a brutal auction game and so awesome. And it's my favorite auction game, I think. Whenever we're talking auction centric. Yeah. It's so simple and so brutal and so awesome.
Yeah, I think it is the most brutal auction game in existence. It's hard to get a hold of. It's easy to print and play, though, if you want to. Hint, hint. That said, it's going to be higher on my list here in a little bit. The first Splatter game to make its appearance on my list is Roads and Boats. I love logistics, maybe not as much as Amanda, but I love logistics. I think I'm a closet UPS fiend. That said, I still have a hard time believing we've only played this game once, which is a Travisham mockery.
It is.
I understand that. And it's something that Matt and Dana will correct, because they both absolutely adore this game as well. So having them local now helps. That said, only played it once, but absolutely loved my play of it, and it just needs more love. The end.
And we'll be talking about that one later. All right, my next one is Panamax. This is not, I would say if we were actually numbering these, this would be 50. It's at the very cusp of not being included because we kind of got worn out of the game. But I just, the mechanic of being able to push boats is really, really cool. And that, I don't want to say that that's the only reason it's on there, but it's such an interesting thing that happens in the game that it makes me want to have it on my list as well.
You know, even if it were the only reason that it makes your top 50 is that mechanic of the way the ships push one another and everything, I wouldn't blame you in the least. The lack of the interaction on the stock market and the inequities of the goal cards kind of soured me on the game a little bit, but it's still a game that I would happily put on the table if anyone asked for it. So it didn't make my list, but yeah, that one mechanic was ingenious, and I would love to see other games pick up on that mechanic as well. Mm-hmm. All right, so the next couple are school night games, I guess you could say, more middleweight. And the first one is Rococo.
Yep, that's next up for me too.
Who knew I liked making dresses? Hey, all right, I'm down. I'm super excited about the jewelry expansion, and I like the way the deck building works, and it's just enjoyable. There's nothing special. There's nothing exemplary about the game. It's just enjoyable. And again, I love unique themes. And this is one of only 2 fashion-centric games that I know of, the other being Pret-a-Porter, that are out there, and I enjoy them both. But yeah, Rococo, just a fun game.
I really enjoy Rococo because I like the building up that becomes, to the end of the fireworks display and getting all of the different fountains and the features and all that stuff. The art's beautiful and the colors are great and it's just a fun game. I like it a lot. Next for me is Small City by Alban Viard. This game makes me want to die, and it is
in a good way, though. I hope.
Yes, in a very good way, or it wouldn't be on my top 50 here. It's SimCity, the board game. Just the way that you have to think about every single thing that you do, how Alban's games always are, and it's just the Tetris that you have to play and the thinking ahead you have to do, and just everything about it is awesome.
Yep. Also on my list, we reviewed it recently. We had some issues with the game, but that didn't stop either one of us rating it extremely high. And it's a game that I'm excited to get to the table. Hey, there's a theme here. Even though we've recently reviewed it, it's a game that I still want to get to the table, which is a very, very good sign. Mm-hmm. So just before Small City on my list is Shipyard. I believe this was in my top 20 last time. It just narrowly missed it. Another school night game to where I love making my ships. I love running them on their test runs. I love trying, hey, do I go big ships this time? Do I go little ships? Do I go this? Do I do that? Can I omit propellers? Can I, whatever. And I love the 74 different rondelles that are in the game. Just really, really enjoy this game. And it's one that will never leave our collection.
It's such a good game.
That we also reviewed. Right.
And we will be talking about that one later in my list. Next one up for me is Three Kingdoms Redux. We played this quite a bit whenever you guys reviewed it. I wasn't a part of the show yet, but I was still third chair playing the games. And it's just a great game. It's hard to play. It's hard for me anyway. It's hard to play, and it requires a lot of thinking in different ways that I'm used to when it comes to playing games. And the history of it is awesome, and the art is beautiful, and Christina and Jouster are fantastic people, so that makes me, like it even more just because of them. But yeah, so I love that game.
It'll be on my list here in a little bit.
All right.
Another recent review for us, and that's St. Petersburg. Another just classic, just awesome, fun school night game. Mm-hmm. The end. I mean, there's a reason, I don't know, a decade plus that since it was first published, that we still enjoy it, and it still gets lots of plays by other members of BGG. Go back and listen to the review if you need us to sell you on it. By the way, John Gets Games, he was underwhelmed. We'll forgive him this time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later in my list. Up next for me is Tigris and Euphrates. I hadn't played this game before ever, and then I played it twice in a row and fell in love, and it's very abstracted. It's a thinky, really, really good Knizia, and it's Knizia for sure with that scoring mechanic, but I really liked the game.
Wow. That means we're going to have to revisit Reef Encounter, because I feel like there's a lot of similarities there, and Tigris and Euphrates is a hard game, and I understand why some people absolutely hate it and others absolutely love it. But yeah, I was enamored with it, but man, that kicked my butt when we played it. The next splatter up for me is The Great Zimbabwe. There are a lot of things to like about this game. It plays in about 90 minutes. I love the cut your own throat as far as set your own victory point goal. I love the dispersing of the wealth auction for turn order. Just haven't played it enough of late, so it's down here but it's not like this is a bad game being in 21 to 50. It's still a fantastic game. Just need to play it more and hopefully review it eventually on the show.
That's up higher on my list. Next up for me is another Feld, Trajan. I love the Mancala in the game. There's just so many different things to do. I mean, it's a point salad. It's Feld. It's one of my favorites of his. I think probably my second favorite, I would say. We don't play it enough, but I really enjoy Trajan.
I really feel like I have grown past a lot of Feld games, and I enjoy Trajan. I don't love it like I used to, but I enjoy it, and I welcome plays of it. But yeah, not a top 50 for me anymore.
All right.
The first true political / war game that's on my list, and that's Triumph and Tragedy. It's a block war game. I think the fact that you really enjoyed it as well didn't hurt. Let me put it to you that way. But it's another 3-player centric game that just I long to get to the table again.
Yeah, same here. It's not on my list, but yes, that was a very enjoyable game, even though I did get my butt whooped completely. Not even just, like a little bit, but completely by skipping. And next up for me is Zolkin. We played this game a lot when it first came out, and it kind of soured me on it, I think, because we played it so much, but I still wanted it in my top 50 because it's a good enough game that I can overlook being kind of sour on it and still think about...
Kind of burn out, you mean, by sour?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So still, even though I am soured on it or burnt out on it or whatever, I still can look past that and still understand that it's a really, really good game.
Cool, that's fair. It just barely missed my list. Again, just hasn't hit the table in a long time, and I'd like it for it to, because we have the expansion. I've never played it. I'm very curious to try it, and it's another game that scales well, 2, 3, or 4, or I guess with the expansion 5. Twilight Struggle is up next for me. It's a game that I would love to play more. I know it's like, I feel like a broken record at this point, but if I could just not work and you could just not work, we would have so much more time to play all these wonderful games.
No, it would be fantastic.
But having recently done our video for 13 days, our playthrough, and it just made me realize, wow, I really want to play this game some more, it being Twilight Struggle, and just haven't, or else it would likely be up on my list higher.
Yeah, this
An
missed
absolute classic.
Yeah, this missed my top 50 simply because we've only played it once, but it's
Well, you have only played this once.
How many times have you played it? I thought you'd only played it
3.
once. Oh, okay. But yeah, so it's not on my list. But yeah, it would be if we'd played it more, most likely. And next up for me is Village. It's absolutely unplayable without Village port.
Well, I don't know, unplayable.
It makes it so much better that I
agree, but really, it's not. I think it's fine. But anyway, go ahead.
Whatever.
Sorry.
So it's it's such a funny game because you want to kill your people. I mean, it makes no sense, but you want them to die so you can get new generations of people. But it's a really interesting and cool game that we haven't played in a while, but I would like to more. I really like that game too.
Yeah, that time mechanic is really cool. And it kind of tells a bit of a story in that, this generation died off. He was a famous, I don't know, barkeep or whatever he was. And I think that's, a really well-known clergyman. And I think that's really unique in that it has a strong theme going through that, and it legitimately tells a story. So yeah, let's make that happen.
Yeah.
A legitimate, true war game is up next, and that's U.S. Civil War. Again, I would give my left arm. Okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but I would really like to play this every night for a week to be able to really feel comfortable enough to review this on the show. It is the map. If you're a mapophile, I don't know what the exact term is, but if you enjoy maps, I think it has an absolutely stunning map with the game. It's historic. It can also be somewhat ahistoric. It has shorter scenarios. And I think having Tony around and him being such a knowledgeable guy when it comes to the Civil War, he made me enjoy the history of the game and why people are rated the way they are, the generals and such. And it's a fascinating look, and its strategic level, just everything that I enjoy about war games, just about this game has. And I would just want to play it more.
I haven't played it, but I would love to. All right, so my last one, since we've talked about it, some other ones already, is Wildcatters. This game...
Also on my list.
Yeah, this game is beautiful. It is elegant. It is, how much we love that word, but it is. And it's really hard. The area majority part is so hard, but it's so good and so worth the irritation and not winning Russia or whatever.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this game. We've reviewed this as well. It's definitely on my top 50 list. It's a game that I absolutely love. It's a little misleading in that it is a collection of area majority games, and a lot of people might be surprised when they first play that that's the case, but maybe not, because I imagine they will have listened to our review. That said, just aesthetically, one of the prettiest games on the table that you could ever want to see. And just, I thoroughly enjoy this game. And it's one that, even though I've played it just a ton, both in anticipation of the review as well as prior to that, it's a game I still look forward to playing many more times down the road. My last one is the second Vital Lacerda game on my list, and that is Venus. It's a hard game. It's a game that it doesn't have all the edges smoothed off of it, and I enjoy that about the design. I know the reprint is, well, it changes the game a bit, and I'm looking forward to trying that. But when I talk about Venus, I'm talking about the first edition. It still has a place in my heart, and it's a game that I absolutely welcome playing more of.
It didn't make my list, but yes, I would definitely enjoy playing that more.
And welcome to the top 20.
Dun, 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 dun.
So I gave some thought as to how much do I really want to play these games right now? And that's kind of some of the rationale that went into my top 20.
Okay.
All right. So with that said, my number 20 is Antiquity. And the reason it's that low, it's a fantastic game. It's a Civ game. I love it. But I don't know if I'm super jonesing to play it, but I absolutely, hey, you want to play Antiquity? Yeah, let's do this. You know,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just one of my all-time favorite Civ games.
Yep, and we will be talking about that later.
Okay.
All right, my number 20 is 18 Dixie. I played it at Conclave of Gamers with our regular 18XX crew, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very cool game. I like the 18XX games where minors grow into majors, and that's like the preeminent example of that.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't played it yet. I'm looking forward to. I definitely want to. I think the track that you follow
It's
as
crazy,
far
but
as
it's very-
stock
yep.
round than operating round. It is the most involved track that I've ever seen in any 18XX game.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I've heard nothing but good things. I'm intrigued by it and definitely want to play it. So I'll add another on the anticipating list. All right. So for me, my number 19 is Container. I think it was higher last year or whatever on the last list. Amanda talked well about it earlier. Just one of the quintessential auction games, and it plays surprisingly fast. It always surprises me. I'm like, do I want to play for 3 hours? And I'm like, wait a minute, it's like a 90-minute, maybe 120-minute, 2-hour game.
It's not a long game.
Not at all. And I know it's supposed to be getting a reprint here. My guess is going to be 2017, maybe roll into 2018. So I'm looking forward to that. But I do love our custom heavy cardboard painted chips.
Most
Thanks,
definitely.
T.
All right, my number 19 is 1846. It's a really good learning 18XX game, but there's meat there. So that's why it's in my top 20, because it can introduce people to 18XX games, but I don't want to fall asleep while playing it. And it's a game you can play over and over and over again and be just fine doing that.
Exactly. And it's higher on my list. And that's why a lot of people, whenever I look on like Reddit or something like that, and people recommending 18AL as a beginner game. And I would disagree with that, because 18AL, it's boring for anybody that is even remotely experienced with 18XX games. Whereas 1846, you can introduce to beginners and it still be a really good game for experienced players to play with them. So yeah, definitely. Good, excellent choice.
Why, thank you, sir.
The next to last splatter that is on my list, and that is Indonesia. It has the unique feature of the mergers that is the game, and it's just fantastic. We've played it a lot over the course of the last year, so I'm not super, I want to play this game, but at the same time, it is such a good game that it belongs in my top 20, and it's a game that even though I might not be jonesing to play right now, it's a game that once I played it, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty. Yeah. I remember why now. Mm-hmm. And it's getting reprinted later on this year, here in the next month or two, actually, in time for Essen. So I'm really excited to see what the fellas do with the new board, the redesign on that, and some other minor aesthetic stuff. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, my number 18 is Craftsman. That was lower on your list, and we talked about it then, but it's such a brain-burny game that you have to, there's so many things you have to remember regarding, you have to have this before you can do this, but you kind of need that before you could do this. It's just, and the different buildings and the chaining that you can do and all of that kind of stuff is just perfect for me. So it's going to be in my top 20 for sure.
Cool. Yeah, definitely belongs there for you, and it's not far off for me. My number 17 is 1857. My number 17 is 1857. This is a winsome 18XX games, which basically means that this is an 1830 clone. It requires 1830 in order to play it. But the reason I have this so high on my list doesn't have to do with the fact that Tony made me a custom 1857 from my components. He just completely tricked it out. It's just beautiful. It's set in, Argentina, somewhere in South America. And much like what I said with 1889 about it being an 1830 clone on a better map, this game plays in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, with anything remotely close to experienced players. And this has, at least in my experience, the most extreme train rush.
Yes.
There were, I want to say the last time we played this game, the 3s and 4s or the 4s and 5 trains never ran.
It was the 3s and 4s.
Yeah, they never ran. It was fantastic and totally brutal. And it's a legitimate 18XX game that can be played on a school night. And I will never, ever turn down a game of this, with rare exception, I guess. So what's your number 17?
My number 17 is the next slaughter on my list, Roads and Boats. It is so high on my list because we haven't played it very often. We've only played it once, but it's logistics, and UPS is my middle name. And
right, you are the queen of logistics. Yes,
I am. And so it hits all the right notes for me.
So that tells me we just need to play it more.
Yep. Yes, please.
Next up, number 16 for me is TKR, Three Kingdoms Redux. Arguably the best 3-player game out there, in my opinion. It has auctions. It has just direct player confrontation, but it also prevents the big problem that you often have in direct confrontation games, 3-player games, and that is, if these two fight, this third player then walks away with the win. That's truly impossible just by the way the game's designed here. As you mentioned earlier, it has gorgeous artwork. Just genuinely enjoy this game. Really, really. I think I would say that my love affair for the game has grown since our review than as opposed to wane on some others.
Wow. Okay. My number 16 is another logistics happy game, The Great Zimbabwe. I adore The Great Zimbabwe. It was the game that I wanted to play on my birthday a couple of years ago. So that's always a good indication of what kind of gaming mood I'm in and what my favorite game is at the time. And I love like we talked about earlier, I love the distribution of wealth and the cutting your own throat with the different gods and all of that stuff. It's such an awesome game.
Totally agree.
So what's your number 15?
It is the inaugural Golden Elephant Award winner, and that is Madeira. Amanda talked about it earlier. It's a game that I keep trying to get back out to the table here at Game Days, and for one reason or another, somebody shoots it down. I think at some point I'm just going to say, no, look, I'm playing this. I'll play it solo 4-player if I have to, but I'm playing this game. The Ambassador little mini expansion that came out for it really helps with the islands and the distribution of what's important in the game. And I think that's only made it a better game. And I still think to this day, it is Nuno and Paulo's pinnacle as far as game design, in my opinion.
Wow, all right.
So, yep, number 15, Madeira.
My number 15 is Shipyard. We talked about that a little bit earlier with you. That's just, I just love the variability of the game, how many different ways you can go about doing things. And who doesn't like to build a ship? Come on now.
And I know some people don't enjoy the personal goals, the private goals. You can always do the common ones if you want. And hey, at the end of the game, you choose one green, one blue. Everybody does. Boom, done.
Right.
So earlier we mentioned auction games, and you said what your favorite auction game is. And I could make a case that this is my favorite at number 14. Although there's one higher that, again, could be argued that it's an auction game too. And that's Neue Heimat at my number 14. Just the most brutal auction game in existence and absolutely delicious.
Yep.
Just the end. If you can't get a copy, just
go
make your own if worse comes to worse.
Go to Home Depot and buy some stuff.
Or make friends with somebody that has a copy and play theirs.
My number 14 is Le Havre. This is one of the very first, very heavy-ish games that we played, I think. And I remember just falling in love with it. And like you said earlier, there's just, basically two decisions that you have every turn, but it's such a hard burn and trying to figure out what is best for you to do.
And looking far enough down the road, okay, I need to convert this to this, and then I need this to this to be able to get this ship to be able to make enough points.
Exactly.
Oh, and don't forget, you have to feed. Great game.
Yep, sure is.
My number 13 is the 2014 Golden Elephant Award winner, and that's Arkwright. Fantastic business sim that has recently been reprinted by Capstone Games, originally by Spielworks, and it's just a win of a design. It plays fantastic 2, 3, and 4 players, and there's a reason we're wanting to make a playthrough video for it. We think it's special and deserves to be in any business/economic fans collection.
Yep, absolutely, and this one's higher on my list. My number 13 is Food Chain Magnate by Splatterspellen. The game is so incredibly difficult for me. The wrapping my head around the advertising and the radio and the airplanes and all of those different things and trying to figure out the best form of action to be able to sell all of your stuff and everything is really, really good. And this is Splatter's latest release. This was a Golden Elephant Award winner last year and totally deserving of that.
And that's actually my number 12. And
nice.
Exactly what you said. It's one of my favorite games, obviously, because it's number 12 on my list. So you want to roll into your number 12?
Sure. My number 12 is 18 Ardennes. So this is another one where the minors grow up into the majors, which is a theme, if you're noticing, in my favorite 18XX games.
The reason it's not in my top 50 is just haven't played it much lately, and others have eclipsed it from a newness standpoint.
Right,
but otherwise, I do really enjoy the way there's that huge, I want to say 15 auctions for the minors that get started, and then certain minors can merge into certain majors, and just the planning that goes into that and the variability of that. Oh, I got this minor and this minor at this game. Okay, how do I make this
Exactly.
work? So yeah, an excellent game. I know some 18xxers are poo-pooing the game a bit, but we're not proficient enough to run into the issues that some people perceive as issues. So in the meantime, much like, say, A Few Acres of Snow, it's a non-issue for us, but it's something to be aware of. My number 11 was new to this, my top 20 this year, and that's Masters of Venice. You mentioned it earlier. I think the tactile fiddliness that this game has, I think actually adds to the game as opposed to detracts from it. Much like what we said that I said when we reviewed it. I like that you physically have to move the pegs on the pegboard to simulate supply and demand. And I just like that, oh, wow, I see it, as opposed to just a number moving or moving something out. It feels like what you're doing. And I really enjoy this game.
Yeah.
Really enjoy this game. I hate the artwork.
Yes.
So if you can overlook that, yeah, definitely. And it's still dirt cheap. It's like $12, $15, $20. Definitely recommend checking it out as long as you can get past the art.
My number 11 is St. Petersburg. This is what we reviewed in episode 50, so you can obviously go back a couple episodes and listen to our thoughts about it. We just played it again recently and just remembered how much I truly love this game.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason, right?
Yep.
All right, reach the top 10. My number 10, Reef Encounter. Woe on me for the simple fact that I can never get it out to the table with our game group because too many people dislike this game because y'all are weird.
Whatever.
That said, with your new affinity of Tigris and Euphrates,
Yep.
I do think that there is some similarities between the games, and I really would implore you to please try this again and give it a shot with googly eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Just put the googly eyes on the shrimp and let's do this.
Absolutely. And I know that Matt is willing to play it too. He doesn't really care for it either, but we both want to play it to see if we're still right and not liking it or not.
Oh, no, that would be wrong. Not liking it. Thank you. All right. What's your number 10?
Castles of Burgundy. It's my favorite.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's way down here.
Yeah,
huh?
it is. My favorite Feld. It's just a nice, relaxing game. That's just the best way for me to describe it.
I'm not going to say that this shows any maturity in your gaming taste, but I would say an evolution in your gaming taste. The fact that this is your number 10, I would have said that this still would have been one of your top 3. So I'm super excited to see what's in your
Yeah, I think
rest of them.
I think you're going to be shocked by my top 10.
Cool. Number 9, The Old Soldier, Puerto Rico. Unlike many gamers, we came into the hobby well after Puerto Rico has already played itself out to a lot of people. We didn't get that, and I still thoroughly enjoy every single time we play it. And every single time we play it, we're like, we should play this more.
Yep.
Yeah, just an absolute classic and a game that I just don't tire of. So number 9, Puerto Rico.
And that's higher on my list. My number 9 is Indonesia. We talked about that a little bit earlier with you, and I think the fact that I am so infatuated with this game is because I am incapable of. I won the first time we played, and I don't think I've ever won it since. It's very, very hard for me for this game, and I'm not sure why. And so
evaluating the value of the mergers.
Maybe that, and just trying to figure out exactly the best route to go to deliver things, and that just, for some reason, it's like a sticking point with me. I just can't quite get it. So I think that's why it's so high on my list. It's because it's just so frustrating to me, and I want to play it more in order to try to figure out why I can't figure it out.
Fair enough. My number 8, Martin Wallace's best game, in my opinion, Brass. Just need to play it more. The end.
Yeah, I didn't really play it very much whenever you guys reviewed it. So I've only played it once or twice, I think, and I haven't played it in years.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And I do want to play Age of Industry, which is kind of how Steam is to Age of Steam. Age of Industry is the Brass. So I definitely want to try it. I still haven't to be able to compare and contrast. But that said, I thoroughly enjoy Brass. So I'm not going to say there's no need. I really do want to, but I can't imagine it's going to eclipse Brass at number 8 for me.
All right. You're sitting, so that's good. My number 8 is Dominant Species.
Woohoo!
I feel like this really shows my gaming growth because I used to absolutely abhor this game because I did not want to be the bad guy and I did not want to kill people and kill species. And now I'm understanding that it's just a game and it's okay. Nobody's going to not want to be my friend anymore just because I killed that arachnid on that tundra.
Oh, so you're talking not because you're killing animals, so to speak. It's so because you're having to quote unquote pick on somebody.
No.
Or attack somebody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Okay.
if I completely understand that it's just cubes, I'm not actually killing, spiders or anything like that. I understand that it's the pick on people factor, which that doesn't bother me anymore. And it used to bother me so much, even, to pick on someone else or to feel picked on. But now it's just a game, man. So it's made me see how awesome this game is.
That's fantastic to hear. It's higher on my list, as to be expected.
Right.
My number 7 is my favorite political game, and that's Democker. 5-hour, 5-player only game that I absolutely love. That if you have any questions, go back and listen to our review. I absolutely love this game.
All right, my number 7 is Agricola. I have never played it actually. No, wait. I did play it once without the Farmers of the Moor expansion and didn't enjoy it. I needed to be able to do more than what the base game gave me. But I really enjoy Agricola. I love farming, the farming aspect of it and the family and having to feed everybody and the constant pressure of having to have enough food for everybody and enough workers to do what you need and all of those lovely things.
This is my number 6
Oh,
game.
wow. Second time we've done it.
The reason I enjoy this game so much is because unlike many other games in which you're just trying to do who does the best as far as who's the most prosperous and all that. That's not really the case in Agricola. It's all about subsistence. You're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
If you survive, you did a good job. If you're not going to, score absolutely terribly, then you did a good job regardless if you won the game. I like that it is a more stressful and more difficult worker placement game as opposed to Fields of Arla and Caverna, where there are ways to circumvent. If someone blocks you here, you're pretty much blocked, and you better come up with plan B or have come up with plan B prior. One of my all-time favorite games, and a game that I really want to play more. I guess I should stop saying that because that pretty much goes for almost any game in this list.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my number 6, Agricola.
All right, and my number 6 is Arkwright. This was, a game that you guys reviewed and before I was on the show, and it's, spreadsheet the game, and it's just I just love the game.
I don't care about that whole spreadsheet the game name that some people who hate the game or just it looks terrible. I think it looks pretty.
It's gorgeous. The setting up the pawns can be a bit of a hassle without the Meeple Realty insert, but it's just the art's beautiful. I just love the game. The end. Your number 5.
Keyflower.
Whoa.
Another game that I just don't get a chance to play much of, and this is just basing it off the base game. We have both the expansions, soon to be another, it sounds like, at Essen, but just haven't played the base game enough to warrant breaking out the expansions yet, and that's why we haven't reviewed it. I love the fact that meeples are currency as well as workers, and the different colors are different currencies. I just think that's so clever, and yeah. Fantastic game, Keyflower.
My number 5 is Antiquity. This is my favorite Splotter, obviously, since it's the highest one on the list. And I love me a Civ game, and I also love me a game that's punishing, and this is the most punishing game. All that stupid pollution, but it's so good. It's such a good game.
I think it plays well 2, 3, and 4, although maybe runs a little long with 4.
Mm-hmm. It can.
All right, my number 4, 1846, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier.
All right. My number 4 is Age of Steam. And I'm not going to say whenever I say Age of Steam, I'm not talking about the base game, I'm talking about the system. All of the different maps and all of the different, just everything about Age of Steam, that's what makes it my number 4 game. It's not the base game, it's the system.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with the base map, with the Rust Belt map, but I agree. The system is what makes it, and it's higher on my list.
All right.
Number 3 on my list is Dominant Species. It's the game I've played more than any other, including fillers, which I think is kind of cool. And it's a game I never tire of. It's a game where you can be 50 points behind midway through the game and still not be out of it. And it changes every game by the way the order of which the cards come out. And it's just, I just love the game. I hope we review it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that should not be any problem. My number 3 is 1830. I know that you don't care for it because of the map and the track laying, but I don't mind that at all. I love 1830. I love the base game of it. I also love all of the fact that it can be molded and changed just ever so slightly to make a completely different game, whether it, just making it in a different locale or whatever. Just about all of those Winsome games are based on 1830 and the tiles and everything like that. And I just, when at HeavyCon, Tony, KR, and Dana and I just were like, hey, let's play 1830. Like, okay, plunk. So it's just at any time I will play 1830.
Nice. Even though you're not too keen on the stock manipulation aspect, which this is, the grandfather of that, I find that interesting. So that tells me that you're interested in it, even if you're not so hot at it yet.
Right.
Cool. So I actually struggled here between my number 1 and number 2 game.
Wow.
And I thought about it, and I decided my number 2 game is, some people call it Martin Wallace's game. Some people call it John Bora's game. That's for another discussion. But of course, I'm talking about Age of Steam. So earlier when I had talked about Neue Heimat about being the best auction game, a lot of people say that the turn order auction in Age of Steam is, in a lot of cases, the game itself. And I wouldn't go quite that far, but there's a reason it has upwards of 140, 170 expansion maps. There's a reason that a few big name designers have cut their teeth designing Age of Steam maps. It is extremely versatile. It is also extremely just enjoyable. And I love the aspect of the game that the very first action of the very first turn of the very first player can be like, how many shares do I take? I have no idea. Yeah, winning 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 players, depending on the map. And that is the only downside. You do want to match the player count to the map. But other than that, yeah, just amazing. And to think the first couple times I played this, I absolutely hated.
Yeah, we both
Age of
did.
Steam.
Which is
how things change.
mind-boggling to me. All right, my number 2 is Puerto Rico. It was lower on your list, and it's such a classic game. It's just fantastic. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It's just so good.
Yep, there's a reason it stood the test of time, right?
Yep, and I do believe, sir, that we have come to number 1, and I believe that perhaps the Eulers have the exact same number 1 game.
That's interesting. I would not have guessed that. But my number 1 was...
And will always be.
Nope, I don't know that I can say that. But it's the new, or a story, whatever the new version
Through
of it is.
the Ages, a new story of civilization.
There you go.
And that's my number 1 as well.
It is... I love playing this game. There is one really, really big caveat.
Don't play it with 4.
This is a 2 or 3 player game only. I will never, ever, ever, ever play it 4 players again. It drags way longer than it should. Whether experienced players, new players, doesn't matter. It just drags too long. But outside of that, I never thought that there could be a Civ game that is strictly cards and it still feel thematic and still feel like the progression of time. And props to Vlada Chvátil for being able to come up with a game that does that and that isn't dudes on a map. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's fascinating to me. And I'm not really good at the game, but I love every single play of this. And I would nearly be willing to play this almost weekly for the rest of my life.
I could definitely see that. And yeah, I would agree with you on every point. It's so good. It's so good.
All right. So there's our top 50. I got to say there's some surprises here for hearing from you. So I'm excited to have learned that, and hopefully the listeners are as well.
Yeah. So maybe this will give you guys a good kind of blueprint and layout of how I feel about certain games, and you can understand where I'm coming from whenever I review games from now on.
So one last thing that I wanted to bring up, since I have a previous list to go off of. So I made this list, and there are 9 new games on this as opposed to the last list. And I think we should do this each time to see just the way things change. So the new in are 1860, 1880, 1889, Cavum, Millennium Blades, Small City, St. Petersburg, U.S. Civil War, and Lignum. So with 9 new games in, that means 9 games had to come out of the top 50. However, 2 of them I feel kind of disqualified and really, if I'm being honest, didn't belong last time we did this list. But in my opinion, these 2 are honorary top 20 games for me. And those are The Climbers, which, all right, fine. I'm not going to call it filler, but maybe. And Crokinole. I'm not going to go to a game day to play Crokinole or to play The Climbers, but those are 2 of my all-time favorite games nonetheless. So other than those 2, 18 Ardennes, 18 Mex, Hammer of the Scots, Here I Stand, Imperios Millenarios, Zulkin, and Unhappy King Charles. And to be honest with y'all, any of those could have made the list if I had played them since the last time I made this list.
All right, that's fair.
So yeah, it's a snapshot in time, right?
Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
There you go. And for all those folks who don't know how to get in contact with us, Amanda?
Our website is heavycardboard.com. Our email address is contact@heavycardboard.com. We love hearing from you guys, so please don't be shy. Our Twitter handle is @heavycardboard. Our Facebook page is Heavy Cardboard. Our YouTube channel is Heavy Cardboard Vids, VIDS. Our Instagram is Heavy Cardboard. Our Patreon is patreon.com/heavycardboard. And our BGG guild number is 2044.
All right. So there's our top 50, at least of right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right now.
That was fun. And I feel like hopefully folks learned a little bit about you, or a little bit more about me and a little bit more about you.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to get some feedback.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And don't forget about the Google Voice. Interact with us, y'all.
Call us, leave us voicemails, leave us or email us. We'll answer you on the show.
Cool. All right. Then we'll catch you all next time.
Yep. Bye, guys.